Hi, I'm Julie Sandham with Peach Blossom Properties. Today I want to talk to you about evictions. This is something that comes up no matter where you are in your property manager career, or if you own a property, there's a good chance that you're going to have one at some point. Overall, these can be avoided. If you have a reputable property manager, you probably don't need to worry about an eviction because they've done a great job of screening your tenants ahead of time. However, sometimes these things still happen. So what happens in an eviction? First, most people think that evictions happen only for non-payment of rent. That is most common cause, but it's not the only one. Sometimes you have an unruly tenant. Sometimes they have problems with the neighbors. Sometimes they have pet violations, or they have people living in the home that shouldn't be living there. All of these different things are potential causes for an eviction based off your lease. Today I'm just going to talk about non-payment of rent. First step is if they don't pay rent by the due date, you usually have a grace period. Then you have a day that late fees will be charged on the account. Once that happens, you can put a notice to vacate on the door. Then you have 3 days by the Texas Property Code to file the eviction with the court of law. Now, if your lease stipulates, you can have 24 hours to do this instead of the full 3 days, but it must be written in the lease. Most people are going to pay their rent within 24 hours of receiving this notice because they don't want to be evicted, or if they really don't have the money, they're going to skip out in the middle of the night. However, let's assume that they don't. So you can e-file with most courts nowadays. You have to check with each individual justice of the peace to see. And it's going to take a varied amount of time. Usually in Hays County, it's going to be a little bit quicker, and Travis or Williamson County, you're probably looking at closer to 30 days. It really just depends on the caseload and what is going on right at that time. Once you get a court date, you or your property manager are going to show up to court. A lot of times the defendant does not show up, but not always. You still need to be prepared with all of your documentation to present to the judge before filing the eviction. Once that happens, if you receive a default judgment or a judgment in your favor, the defendant has 5 days to appeal. Once that 5 days is up, if they have not appealed, then you can file for what's known as a writ of possession. This is where you call the constable and you go to the property and they are forcibly removed. The majority of the time, people again are going to be out before this. They're not going to stay and wait for the constable. It's nothing fun that anyone wants to deal with. So just to recap, when you're dealing with a reputable property manager, you probably won't ever have to do any evictions. However, in the unlikely event that you do have to deal with an eviction, in Texas, you're looking at probably 30 to 45 days to evict them if you follow the proper steps. This may sound like a long time, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not. I've heard nightmare stories of people from California who've had to take up to a year to get a tenant evicted. Texas, fortunately, is a very landlord-friendly state, and that's generally not the case here if you know what you're doing. I'm Julie Sandham with Peach Blossom Properties. I'm keeping a sharp eye on your investment.
Peach Blossom Properties. Passive income, no worries.